Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole. I'm so happy to be with you today. We have a very special guest, someone I met recently when I went to an art show at my friend Victoria Pinderhughes' church. And she said, you have to come. There are all these amazing artists, and you will definitely appreciate it when you walk in the door. And I did. I saw her work and other folks' work and the artist who I'm going to introduce to you in just a moment. Let me tell you about him. His name is Akili Buchanan. Now, this you will not have known based upon my intro that he's an artist. He is also an Emmy Award-winning documentary filmmaker, network television news producer, print journalist, commentator, lecturer, and educator with more than 20 years experience in media and telecommunications. Akili taught film, television production, and social studies at the university and secondary school levels for the past 27 years. In 2022, like so many people who made shifts in their lives, the pandemic kind of mixed things up for us. For him, Akili left teaching to rededicate himself full-time to his many artistic energies. He formed Human Works LLC and is its executive director. We're going to learn all about Akili, about this new, reinvigoration of his creative side. TV is pretty creative too, but let's welcome Akili Buchanan and learn more about him. Hi there.
Hi, thank you for having me. That was an incredible introduction. I'm embarrassed. Thank you. Thank you for having
well,
me.
you've had a great career, and so like in my career, I say I've had 39 lives because I started at Essence Magazine. I worked in publishing for many years. I was a contributor to the Today Show for many years. I've done a lot of work in media. Mm-hmm. And then for many more years, I've been both teaching people how to tell their story and telling other people's stories. So while I'm definitely not a painter and an artist like you, I understand the diversity of experiences that one can have in a full life. So I'm curious, what was it that made you decide in 2022, I'm hanging up my shingle and on all these other things and focusing on fine art?
Well, again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to talk about art. I never left the art. I never left having an artistic sensibility and energy. I mean, even as a teacher, my classrooms were always very, very visual, always. But after 27 years of teaching in the classroom, I mean, I'm 68 years old. I felt the need to give myself the time on a 24-hour basis to focus on my artistic sensibilities, specifically as it relates to the political climate that we're in, because my art is decidedly political. And what I've been able to do is take all of the experience that I've had over the past 50 years and apply them to what I'm doing now, my art now, my journalism background, my teaching, my looking at different at cinema, just taking all of those years and all of that intellectual practice and focus it on my art now. I consider myself, I've always been a political activist since I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. So my art reflects the kind of political bent that I had, the political journey I've had. I consider myself a liberation artist. And
so that's interesting. Let's talk about that for a moment. You asked me why did I invite you to be on my show, and especially under the umbrella of Dreamleapers. So when I
Yeah.
walked into the space, and I was drawn to a particular flag. You have a lot of work that kind of contemplates the flag.
The American flag is a major motif in my work
Right.
right now
Yes.
because it
And
symbolizes very, very succinctly America. It
it
is.
does.
And you can make so much commentary using that one symbol. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. And there were several pieces of art that had the flag motif on it, but one where the colors were really saturated, but on top of this painted flag were shell casings from all different kinds of weapons. And so from a distance, you can't quite tell that they're shell casings. It really looks like jewelry from a distance. And I'm a fashion girl. I was attracted to the jewelry, and I come a little closer and I'm like, oh, this is not
Right,
jewelry. This
right.
is not jewelry that I want to wear anyhow, right? But it attracts you, the metal juxtaposed to the flag. And then when you get closer, I mean, some of these shell casings are very large. I don't know a whole lot about bullets and the shell
Some of them
casings,
were
but
AR-15 casings. Some were 9mm, 45mm, 357 Magnum shell casings. The piece that we're discussing is entitled American Landscape.
mm,
And it's sold, by the way. It's sold by someone who came to
good.
the art show. Yes, thank you. Um, and so many people like you said at first glance, it looked beautiful, right? Whether it
It
was
is
jewelry or
beautiful.
gold, it looked beautiful, enticing, it drew you in. And then when
That's
you
right.
look very, very closely, oh my God,
Right.
it's and then many responses were, it says everything.
It does.
And there are only two symbols. I mean, the flag and the bullets in array. Um,
And then here's something else, because I the folks who are with us in this audience right now were not there when I met you, but I remember a question that I have for you is, well, where in the world did you get them? Because I mean, I guess you could find shell casing on the street. I don't want that to be true, but I bet you can find it on some streets.
not
But
not not in the
not in
volume.
that volume. Not in that volume. I don't ever want to see that many shell casings in one place where I am going to be. But tell us about this, because you you got them. Why and how? How did you get those shell casings?
Well, I mean, I don't often talk about my personal life in this way.
But I think it's important.
Okay, no, but I'm going to. No,
Thank you.
I am a gun owner.
Hmm.
I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment as Malcolm said, because we have to defend ourselves by any means necessary. Now, I don't go around professing, carrying weapons and using them wantonly. No, I believe that the Second Amendment protects my right to defend my life. Um, uh, I think I haven't not just a Second Amendment right, but an existential right to defend myself. Now, I don't think we have to get into that conversation here, but I go to the shooting range because I believe in being a responsible gun owner. And so I can get as many shell casings that are left on the floor at the shooting range. So that's how I got that
So,
quantity.
so there's so many things in that you shared, and I appreciate you sharing that. People often don't talk about guns and what they mean in our society. And I'm the daughter of a judge, and my father had guns in our house. My mother had to learn how to use them so that if she needed to defend herself, she would. My sisters and I knew where the guns were, and we knew not to touch them. We understood why they were there. Um, as one who I'm very conflicted and upset, as I'm sure you probably are, about what is happening to our people at the hands of people who don't understand the value of life, and certainly not of Black life.
Right.
But that doesn't make me think that nobody should have guns. So and I know that there are many people who debate this topic forever. But what I love about art is that you can make a statement that ignites a conversation that can be a conversation. It doesn't have to be a war. People can get fired up, get contemplative, whatever they may get as they react to the work. And I think that is what happened when I saw your work. And I'm guessing what just even
Well,
on that.
Jimmy Baldwin said that the role of an artist is to disturb the peace, right? And you can apply that to almost any endeavor that requires an engagement of the mind, right? As a teacher, as a reporter, a journalist, documentary filmmaker, I've done all of it. Someone involved in commercial films or documentary films, any medium or gig that requires you to engage the mind in a social context is important. And oftentimes you might have to disturb or rock somebody's world in order to foment discussion.
That's right.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's an important thing. It's a very important thing, and which is part of why I make it my business to expose myself and my family and my audience to art, because I think it does create space for us to have important conversations that we might not otherwise have. Let folks know you are listening to Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. As you know, WBAI is a listener-sponsored radio station. We've been around, I think, 62 years, which is pretty amazing given all of the ups and downs of our economy and our world. The questions about what is truth and what is not in recent years. And WBAI is committed to telling the truth in the most progressive way that we can. And we need your support. So I invite you to donate and contribute as generously as you can. You can be a one-time gift, or you can become what we call a BAI buddy. You can become a buddy of my show, of Dreamleapers, by calling us at 212-209-2950. I'll repeat, 212-209-2950. And you can just make any amount of a contribution. I've talked about this a lot, but we spend money on coffee. We spend money on all the different things we do when we go outside. But what if your radio station wasn't on the air anymore? What if you couldn't get this kind of conversation that we're having today with Akili Buchanan, and you had to listen to stuff that you don't want to? Well, it's really up to you. There are no ads. It's only us together making sure that this radio station lasts and flourishes as we move into yet another kind of dark political season.
I'm
So
here.
please join us. Call us at 212-209-2950. Make your contribution today. We appreciate you and we need you. We are talking to Akili Buchanan, who is a fine artist, a political artist, a liberation artist. He called himself. I like that. What does liberation mean today, Akili? We are, one of the things that's happening right now that is so disturbing to me, and it's not just to me. I mean, there's a siren in the background. Why? Because there's always a siren in the background. The siren of our lives. There are so many people who are losing their lives. So many young people of color who are senselessly losing their lives. And everybody seems to be on edge. It feels like all it takes is the tiniest light of a match for the whole world to combust. You've been around long enough to have seen this in different iterations. What do you think it means today? What is happening in our world today that makes it so volatile?
Thank you for the question. I think the contradictions of everyday life are being distilled to such a degree, uh, manipulated by media, manipulated by various power interests, that the contradictions are being distilled to one side of the discussion and the other. And there is today very, very little room for nuance, for shades of gray. And that's unfortunate because that is, in fact, the nature of life, the shades of gray, the nuances. You know, uh, not everyone who says he or she is on the right or the left believes in every single orthodoxy on one side or the other. They're shades of gray, but we don't have uh, we don't have the space, right? The space is not allowed in public life, particularly when it is mediated by corporate media, to look at those nuances, to look at the shades of gray, because it's all about creating light, heat, and not light.
Hmm.
And the internet is like that with the algorithms created so that you get the bombast rather than the analysis, right? And so uh, when I think of liberation, it's the classic, it's given the fact that I'm an African American man, it's the classic identification. I want self determination. I want to speak
Right.
for myself, identify myself, and represent my interests rather than have someone else do that for me. I want to be able to defend my both my humanity and the particularity of my African Americanness.
Mhm.
Uh, and I want power, the power to be free, to think for myself, to act, uh, to have agency, and every human being should have that. I mean, Fred Hampton said not only black power for black people, but he wanted power for all people, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
And in that, theoretically, this
mhm,
makes perfect sense. I
mhm.
mean, and you have quoted some of our greatest leaders who have been very clear about their understanding of what liberation means, and that we have to work hard in order to get there. And then things happen and people feel completely powerless.
Yeah, I wanted to also add,
Hmm.
um, I'm 68 and I'm still learning. I
Right.
can't tell you how much I have learned, for example, from my daughter, who pulls me through a generational keyhole, right? Because there are times when I say something, really whack stuff, according to her, right? And she's smarter than me. Her mind is that her mind is as expansive as I could ever want uh, a child, an offspring to possess. And she has taught me a lot by not giving me any brook or quarter uh, when we argue about something. Um, and I'm still learning about what freedom is, because now we're talking about uh, gender freedom, gender equality, identity, and what does all that mean, and how it applies to public policy, and the nuance. It is difficult, and it's going to be messy, uh, and these discussions have to be had. Uh,
And so to that end, Akili, because as an artist,
mhm.
you know, you are sparking discussion. I'm sure that piece that started this conversation, as it lives in its new owner's home, will spark more discussion,
I
right?
must. I don't mean to interrupt you. That
No,
one piece, American landscape. I've had friends who have told me, people on both sides of the political spectrum, both sides of the ideological left and right, could embrace the imagery of that piece,
sure.
which means uh, when I create something that comes out of me, oftentimes I'm just a vassal. I'm just I'm just the conduit. Once it's out there, it has a life of its own.
Mhm.
And I've seen that in my documentary work, uh, as well as the work that I'm doing now. Uh, and the difference between, for example, propaganda, and which in and of itself is not a negative, depending upon if you use truth to apply your propaganda. That to me is fine. But I was going to say the difference between propaganda and art is that the art itself uh, has a life of its own that you can't control. You can't control. Not if you let it flow out of you and let it speak its truth. I know that sounds kind of new agey art.
Well, for those people who practice art in any of its forms, I think they understand right away what you mean. And I think that more people understand it than not. And also, Brother Buchanan, you don't come off as new agey, so it's okay. I think you
Oh, no,
grounded enough that people are going, okay,
I have
let
a
me.
problem with new agey.
No,
Some of
but I mean, I'm
them,
not saying that. I'm just saying that's not
I know.
how whatever that means. I don't think that's how you sound.
Yeah,
But you know,
I'm a
an
grizzly
artist,
looking old man, right?
an artist is a vessel. I think that is absolutely true. How
Yes.
can people see your work? Do you have a website? How can people view your work?
Sis, I'm like, I started a little over a year ago, last year, and I am still, there's so much I still have to do in terms of creating a website, getting my art out there. Do I go the gallery route? Do I go online route to propagate and sell my art? So I'm doing all of that while I'm trying to be a, a cultural producer. I'm trying
Mhm.
to. I'm working every day on my art, and I can't tell you, I can't sleep at night because so many ideas are coming out of my head.
And that the
And
dreams are manifesting. Well,
yeah,
I want to let folks know that you can look up Brother Akili Buchanan. His work is really powerful, and it was an honor to meet you. And I'm so happy that I could bring you on Dreamleapers to share your vision, a little bit of your vision of what you're doing. The documentaries, you know, on Zimbabwe, so many things. I'll have to have you back so we can talk about more of the work that you have done. But thank you for joining us today.
thank you very much for having me. And belated Happy Mother's Day to everyone, to all the mothers out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful to talk to Brother Akili Buchanan, really incredible artist. He is a liberation artist. That's how he calls himself, and I understand why. You have to look at his work, and you will see why, too. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.